Breaking news from the Bad Homburg Open. What started as a routine first-round match between Maria Sakkari and Yulia Putintseva has exploded into one of the most toxic handshake confrontations in recent tennis history. We're talking about F-bombs, personal attacks, and sarcastic bowing at the net. The footage is shocking, and the implications for both players could be severe.
I've seen plenty of heated moments in my career, but this crosses every line of professional conduct. When you have players telling each other to go F yourself and calling each other names that can't be repeated on television, you're looking at potential sanctions, fines, and serious damage to the sport's reputation. This isn't competitive fire, this is personal hatred spilling onto the court.
The tennis world is in shock right now. Social media is exploding with videos of Sakkari and Putintseva going at each other's throats after what should have been a simple handshake. We're talking about a former world number 3 telling her opponent, "Nobody likes you," while the other player responds with profanity and mocking gestures. This is unprecedented behavior at this level.
Today we're breaking down exactly what happened at the Bad Homburg Open, why this confrontation escalated so quickly, and what consequences both players might face. This isn't just about poor sportsmanship, it's about a complete breakdown of professional conduct that has the tennis world asking serious questions about player behavior and accountability. Let's set the scene. June 22, 2025, Bad Homburg Open in Germany. Maria Sakkari, currently ranked 86th in the world and struggling with her form, takes on Kazakhstan's Yulia Putintseva, ranked 27th. It's a first-round match that goes the distance. Sakkari wins 7-5, 7-6 in a tiebreaker after 2 hours and 26 minutes of tennis.
Both players were clearly under pressure. Sakkari is desperately trying to rebuild her ranking after falling outside the top 30 for the first time since 2018. Putintseva has her own reputation for on-court antics that sometimes wind opponents up. When you combine that pressure with a tight physical match, emotions can boil over quickly.
The match itself was tense. There was a disputed call in the second set tiebreak that initially went Putintseva's way, but Sakkari challenged it. The review overturned the call, giving Sakkari the point she needed to eventually win the match. That moment may have set the stage for what happened next.
You could sense the tension building throughout that second set. Both players were frustrated, the crowd was getting involved, and when you have a controversial call that swings the match, it creates the perfect storm for a post-match confrontation. What nobody expected was how personal and vicious it would become.
Here's where everything went wrong. The traditional post-match handshake at the net. What should have been a routine gesture of sportsmanship turned into a flashpoint. Putintseva offered what witnesses described as a quick, cold slap of the hand while avoiding eye contact with Sakkari. That's when the Greek player snapped.
The handshake is sacred in tennis. It's the moment where you acknowledge your opponent, win or lose. When Putintseva avoided eye contact and gave what appeared to be a dismissive handshake, she was essentially disrespecting Sakkari. But Sakkari's reaction was completely disproportionate to the slight.
Sakkari immediately confronted Putintseva, saying, "Just be like a human being, and when you shake hands with someone, look them in the eyes." That's when Putintseva responded with a sarcastic bow, and the situation exploded. The on-court microphones caught every word of what happened next.
The audio is damning. We can clearly hear Putintseva telling Sakkari to go F yourself, followed by Sakkari's response of "Nobody likes you." This isn't just trash talk, this is personal animosity that crossed every line of professional conduct. The crowd was stunned into silence watching this unfold.
But it didn't stop there. Sakkari actually crossed over to Putintseva's side of the court to continue the argument. Both players kept going back and forth, with Putintseva reportedly calling Sakkari an a-hole, and according to some reports, using even more explicit language that we can't repeat on air.
What's shocking is that neither player backed down. Usually in these situations, one person walks away or cooler heads prevail. Instead, we saw both players escalating, feeding off each other's anger. Putintseva's sarcastic bowing and saluting made it even more inflammatory. This was a complete breakdown of emotional control.
Chair umpire remained seated throughout this entire confrontation. No attempt to separate the players, no intervention whatsoever. That raises serious questions about officiating protocols when situations like this spiral out of control. Where was the authority figure to stop this madness?
The optics are terrible for both players, but especially for Sakkari. As a former world number 3, she's supposed to be a role model. Instead, we see her crossing the court to continue an argument, making personal attacks, and completely losing her composure. This is not how champions are supposed to behave.
In her post-match interview, Sakkari was completely unapologetic. She said, quote, "I don't think she's going to invite me for dinner for the rest of our lives, but I don't care, to be honest. I have very good friends, so I'll go dine with them. I'll stop there and say I respect her as a player, but that's it."
That interview response shows no remorse, no acknowledgement that her behavior was inappropriate. Sakkari is doubling down, essentially saying she was justified in her actions. That attitude is going to make any potential WTA disciplinary action much more severe. She had a chance to defuse the situation and chose not to.
This isn't Putintseva's first controversial moment either. At the 2024 US Open, she had an incident with a ball girl where she ignored balls being passed to her, staring blankly before the crowd booed her. She later apologized for what she called her terrible behavior. Now we have another incident that's even worse.
The pattern with Putintseva is concerning. This isn't just a one-off bad moment, it's becoming a reputation for poor conduct. Combined with today's incident, the WTA has to take serious action. You can't have players repeatedly behaving this way without consequences. The integrity of the sport is at stake.
So what happens next? The WTA has clear codes of conduct that cover player behavior, unsportsmanlike conduct, and verbal abuse. Both players could face significant fines, potential suspensions, or other disciplinary measures. The fact that this was caught on camera and audio makes the evidence undeniable.
The WTA has to send a strong message here. You cannot have players using this kind of language and behavior at professional tournaments. Fines won't be enough. We're likely looking at suspended tournament entries, mandatory anger management, or other serious consequences. This crosses too many lines to ignore.
Social media reaction has been swift and largely negative toward both players. Fans are calling it embarrassing for the sport, unprofessional, and completely inappropriate. Video clips are going viral for all the wrong reasons, showing tennis in a terrible light right before Wimbledon.
The timing couldn't be worse. We're just weeks away from Wimbledon, tennis's most prestigious tournament, and instead of talking about great tennis, we're discussing profanity-laced confrontations and personal attacks. This is not the story the WTA wants dominating headlines right now.
Footage from Bad Homburg is already being compared to some of the worst moments in tennis history. We're talking about a complete breakdown of sportsmanship, mutual respect, and professional conduct. Both players have advanced their careers, but they may have seriously damaged their reputations in the process.
What's most disturbing is how personal this became. Tennis is competitive, emotions run high, but telling someone nobody likes you goes beyond sport into personal cruelty. This wasn't heat-of-the-moment competition. This was calculated meanness designed to hurt another human being.
Ripple effects are already being felt. Young players watch these interactions, fans form opinions about the sport, and sponsors evaluate whether they want to be associated with this kind of behavior. The damage goes far beyond just two players having a bad moment.
Both players will likely face immediate scrutiny at their next tournaments. Every handshake will be watched, every interaction analyzed. They've created a narrative around themselves that will be difficult to escape. This moment may define how they're remembered in tennis history.
This incident raises broader questions about player conduct and accountability in professional tennis. Are players being held to appropriate standards? Are the consequences severe enough to deter this kind of behavior? The Bad Homburg confrontation suggests the current system may not be working.
We're seeing a pattern across sports where competitive pressure is being used to excuse increasingly inappropriate behavior. But tennis has always prided itself on traditions of respect and sportsmanship. When those values break down, the entire sport suffers. This can't become the new normal.
International reaction has been universally negative. Tennis federations, former players, and commentators worldwide are expressing shock and disappointment. This isn't just a local incident, it's become a global embarrassment for professional tennis.
The business implications are significant too. Tennis relies on its image as a sport of excellence and class. When that image is damaged by incidents like this, it affects everything from sponsorship deals to television ratings to public perception. The financial costs of poor behavior extend far beyond individual players.
Looking ahead, both players' careers may be permanently affected by this moment. Sakkari is already struggling with her ranking and form. This controversy adds another layer of difficulty. Putinseva's reputation for poor conduct is now cemented. Neither player benefits from this confrontation in any way.
The psychological impact on both players could be significant. Carrying this kind of negative attention and controversy affects confidence, relationships with other players, and overall mental health. They've created a toxic situation that will follow them throughout their careers.
What we witnessed at Bad Homburg was more than just a bad handshake. It was a complete breakdown of everything tennis claims to represent. Two professional athletes, competing at the highest level, reduced themselves to personal attacks and profanity in front of cameras and fans worldwide.
This incident will be studied, analyzed, and remembered as one of the most toxic moments in modern tennis. Both players had opportunities to de-escalate, to show class under pressure, to demonstrate the values the sport claims to uphold. Instead, they chose anger, personal attacks, and public humiliation.
The tennis world now waits to see how the WTA responds, what consequences follow, and whether this becomes a turning point for better player conduct or just another controversial moment that gets forgotten. The sport's reputation hangs in the balance.
From Bad Homburg to the tennis world, this is a story about what happens when competition turns toxic, when pressure breaks character, and when professional athletes forget that their behavior represents more than just themselves. Sakkari and Yulia Putintseva gave us drama we'll never forget, for all the wrong reasons.